Alright, I gotta do that cliche thing before the episode starts. If you like what you're hearing, please follow the show on whatever platform you're hearing it through. And if you would, give us a rating as well, as both of those help keep the show going and get it found. One last thing, if you want to submit a topic for me to cover, throw me a person you want me to interview or talk with, even if you want to talk with me, or you just want to tell me how terrible of a job I did on something, check out bandwidth.productions to visit the site and drop us a note.
I just found out about this idea that's floating around the internet. It's not another wacky concept about aliens and how they might be living in underground bases beneath the ocean, though I kind of do enjoy that one. What I'm talking about is this thing called dead internet theory. The definition or summarization that you're likely to find when you look it up is that the majority of the internet is driven not by humans, but bots. In that basic form, this makes a lot of sense. The extrapolation that you might find does start getting like aliens under the ocean, and it might be where it gets a bit off the rails, which, I don't know, seems like how all these conspiracies on the internet go. And the underlying motives of why the majority of the internet may be bots, and why bot armies exist, is where I'm going to draw lines as to what I even care about. However, the basic idea that the internet now, or will soon be, pervaded overwhelmingly by bots is something that I think is highly likely. A simple example that I even just recently stumbled upon is look for any image search. A lot of them have been flooded by AI-generated images. Try to find some for hairstyles. The results are overwhelmingly AI images. What about comments on social media platforms? Even before LLMs and ChatGPT became ubiquitous, it was easy to see the similar, if not identical, phrases being posted in response to whatever political or hot-button issue was of the moment. For a while, when I saw something like that, I'd tap into the profile only to see all these different accounts that have only a few followers or no followers, and all having been created recently. Now it's still somewhat easy to see if, with a little digging, to spot that these profiles are fake with telltale signs of AI-generated images or seemingly bogus bio lines. Or better still, those classic basic travel photos being 90% of what's on their profile. Though, judgments aside, I do feel bad for folks that are going about their lives only to make it seem like the images that they post and take are so basic it looks AI generated. What I would wager, though, is that bot spotting is going to get harder and harder to get right. And it's going to happen at an ever-increasing speed. Which means there's a burden on us not just to know who's real or not, but what information is even real. What events that may or may not have actually transposed. On a Reddit post, two bots can have a whole conversation with themselves, arguing back and forth, which, as a casual passerby, can suck up 10 minutes of our time scrolling through the salacious comment trail. This could happen, we can stumble upon this, and then end up leaving this 10 minutes of our time never knowing that the little hits of dopamine we were getting when reading through the argument were all generated from a prompt, including the post itself. What's curious to me, though, is if we were invested in reading this, scrolling through the comments, only to find out that it was all bogus bots, wouldn't that cheapen the experience for us? Would we feel that we just wasted our time reading through it? If we knew ahead of time that it was all bots, would we even want to read it? I can't imagine that we would. It's interesting to ponder what something like that would change to our behaviors on sites, and how that would change how we interact with any given profile on the internet. Would the discourse get even more aggressive than it is now? People say all kinds of slander that they wouldn't say in real life. Would that only get worse if we just reflexively suspect the majority of profiles, if not all of the profiles that we interact with, are bots? These bots are going to get better at fooling us too. Somebody taking the time to create a profile can already fool us. As a, quote, designer named Ruben Cruz did, by generating images of what he purported to be an Instagram model, ended up earning them 10,000 euros a month, and even has some fairly famous people trying to slide in their DMs. If you plug that into something with a little more agency, in a few years' time, will we be able to trust anything on the internet? And not in the same way now that we don't trust anything, but that much of what we see is flooded with automated programs running off on their own. We can see whole stories about what would be impactful events that are utterly fabricated. A fire in some building, an explosion, any number of things that seem awfully convincing, but are not real. And if we think about that being a possibility, doesn't that change the experience of the internet as a cultural space? To say nothing of it as an actual tool? Wouldn't then both the use of it as a tool and a cultural space completely degrade? There have already been whole stories and proof of manufactured troll farms, or companies hiring that type of bot-generating PR firm to increase their reach, and even many content creators today are using it to increase their followers. Hell, in 2017, for shits and giggles, I spun up a little program I got off of GitHub on a Raspberry Pi and automated getting me more Instagram followers. It worked out surprisingly well before I turned it off after a few weeks. There was something I wondered then and wondered as it was running were how many accounts on Instagram writ large were fake, as many of the new followers I got were more than a little suspect. Today, 7 years later, the technology that was running on my Raspberry Pi has only gotten more sophisticated, better, and even easier to spin up. The way our political media has trained our associations over that time span is that we instantly think about Russia trying to influence political races by using bots and troll farms. Though, truth be told, there are many more countries that are doing that, like Israel and Saudi Arabia, but I digress. However, the commonality in bots attempting to influence people has gotten more banal than even that, as bots have taken over Amazon reviews. I maddeningly scream into the void all the time, trying to buy even something as simple as a damn garbage can, because some of the reviews are clearly made by some type of generated content. It being some formal and verbose way of constructing sentences, something that when I see it, it instantly turns me off of whatever I'm looking at purchasing. And let's be real, the vast majority of companies, if not all companies, are concerned with making sales, which isn't a fault to them. From a small business supporting a family to a mega corporation, without money there is no company. Similar to an arms race between countries where each keeps vying for bigger, more precise guns, if one company deploys a strategy and that's working, the rest of the market will start doing it too, and until it proves otherwise useful. Buying ads on Facebook around 2012 was a hot way to make sales on whatever you were selling. That quickly every company from Bath & Body Works through Dell Computers leveraged, before eventually that blew up. With the use of bots like this continuing to go on, will we be able to trust any review? Turing tests like CAPTCHAs, trying to keep out bots will only work for so long, as they're also just another arms race to figure out a means to get around them. So then, will the internet no longer be anonymous? Will everything have some type of verification tag denoting if someone is flesh and blood or a bot? Then there's also the very real and already here issue of deepfakes. The Paris Olympics featured an AI-generated voice of Al Michaels that would create for you personalized rundowns of what happened that day at the Olympics. Doing something like that's only one example. There's a whole litany of podcasts out there that are completely AI-generated, some of which have massive followings. Hell, you can even just type into Google AI-generated podcast, and you'll get YouTube videos suggested that tout being able to create an AI podcast in 5 minutes, which I'm not entirely sure that these videos were not also created by AI. Now, just imagine being able to create videos that look realistic of anyone from Jeff Bezos, a politician, or even just a regular person in a salacious situation that will quickly rile people up. I think, unfortunately, it's only a matter of time until we have several of these incidents, and we feel their consequences, that people wait before reacting for some type of independent verification that an event was real before reacting to it. This thought experiment on what's to come also has me bleakly considering the near term. Many more people are going to be hoodwinked by scams, outraged by incidents that didn't happen, and will likely take a long time, if ever, before realizing it. And it's just going to get harder to get quality information. Everything from learning how to patch drywall, everything is going to get harder to interpret. From trying to fix something at home, to what historical event actually happened, and hell, I think that's already happening. But in the midterm, even right now, if you're savvy enough, I see a huge opportunity. A trusted source is going to become a high currency, individuals or organizations of people that are quality sources for everything from product reviews to tips on how to patch drywall, which shout out to This Old House YouTube. In many ways, we're going to go back to where this whole thing started before the internet blew it up, with movie critics posting reviews before we consider wasting our time on another AI-generated shit movie. Though it's going to be more decentralized, fragmented, complex, and harder to decipher, unlike before. Similar to what we're seeing with content creators. I think individuals are going to be the purveyors of most of the trusted status, instead of legacy institutional organizations like the New York Times. Though I do see a place for those places, and it's likely sophisticated propaganda, which some might argue that's what they've always been, bringing me to another opportunity. A better way to search across verified, real people for information or connections to what you're looking for. Something that Google doesn't have, nor do I want it to say nothing of a verifiable way to know that what I'm viewing is what I think I'm viewing. If it's a comment on a post or a podcast that strangely seems to be about the exact steam mop I'm looking for, perhaps what this really means isn't a dead internet, but an internet going through its next transformation, and one that's in some ways degraded by the very thing that it brought about, mass information. And that mass information used to create bots, which are polluting the very existence of it in the first place. We've already for a decade, at least, have been generating more information on each day than all of human history before. And right now we have no good way to grapple with how to traverse that. Because frankly, we don't need to. And we have a good way to move around the parts that matter to us. Sifting through to get to the parts that matter to us or discovering new things, I think is going to get harder. But I do bet on humans doing what we do best, finding a novel solution to the problem, and probably creating a new system on top. Until that system degrades, and we need to burn it down because it's become a new problem that it's solved. Much in the same way that social media created a new system, a new internet. This transformation, though, I think authenticity is going to take on a whole new meaning than the way that content creators are told to be authentic. In the long term, we're going to figure it out. In the medium term, I think there's a huge opportunity. And in the short term, until then, I think it's just settle up and ride, because it's just going to get stranger.